page 72 and page 73. In this piece I had done a few more experiments with my screen printing before I began to transfer it over onto my banners and my mask. Doing this, I tried to experiment making the print come out with no smudges, and there was a thick layer of paint, so then it would come out perfectly, which came out in both different stencils. However, during this time I figured out that when I left the first filter, the first stencil on, which was the green, it some reason didn't come out as clear as I wanted it to, which after a while I actually tried to scratch off the green paint that was still left on the screen. However, it resulted in blocking the whole ink, which was actually in this photo, this print, where you can see just the fadiest lines and outline, which was the result of me trying to scratch off the green paint. That didn't work in my favour, so instead I had to take off the stencil, which was quite a problem at first, as I had to rip off as much as I could, but the remainder was stuck onto the screen, so I had to wash all the paper off. I was trying to not block up the sink using a special little plug that collected all the paper, but I still used the mistakes I done to work with different layouts, so then I could cover all these sharp lines and add some more interesting traces, which I decided continue the handprint when I use graphite, but instead use the remainder paint and do a few handprints to show the little detail in the fingerprints and the creases. So far I like this style, as I find that it also has a large scale that covers and blocks all the straight lines around the border of the stencil, whilst also covering a great deal and having so many different light and thick traces of handprints. Though I've also tried to do it a different way, which are in these two, where I've used one finger and I've dipped into paint, then just transferred and pressed my finger constantly over the page, where you can see a few light touches and a few dark touches to this piece. However, in the beginning I didn't like this style, as it was kind of lacking. It was quite small. It was as if having a little smudge, or if someone pricked their finger, you just get tons of fingerprints over the piece. And also, when doing this, you can see where there's some light touches to the piece. And you can see the dark ones. Though, even if I did pick this style, it'd probably be best to use it with colour than black, as black stands out more than colour does, which this piece, it has more of a thick coat than the black does. That's why in the end, out of both styles, I chose to use this one, as it has a nice scale, some dark tones, but you can faintly see the pattern, and after a while, still using the paint from applying thick loads, it became weaker, resulting to having more detail being shown in the fingers. I also like this style as it reminds me of feathers from a bird, which can also link towards my 2D in the style of it tracing over to being a bird style, the handprints, almost like feathers. When doing this, I actually got a sponge and pressed it against It's the paint, which then I just squished against my hand, applying some thick and some thin layers, so then it'll be equally applied. As for painting it on my hand with a brush, it might be too thin, I might have too much thick areas, so I wanted it equally spread out on my hand, which I have done in this piece. As for the fingerprints, as you've seen, it has too much of a thick quality, especially in the green piece, which was because I just dipped my finger in, I didn't use a sponge, which might have been the cause, because if I wiped my finger on the side of a pot or a lid to remove as much as I could, it resulted in having a less dry fingerprint, which is seen in here, and there's less detail in every single print that has less ink paint on the finger. I'm quite happy with these screen prints because now I've found out an easy way to make sure my stencil's straight, but also making sure there won't be no creases, smudges to the paper that will result in it being messy styled. As you can see, also from the last one, there used to be some detail from the fabric, or there was too much paint that went through, making it all lumpy, which in these prints they're nice and smooth, and I'm very happy that I've resolved that issue after all. I will be making this piece on both colours, blue and black, which will be used black onto the mask, as the blue mask make it stand out and it has colour already added to it. As for the banners, I'll be using blue because it has some dark tones such as purple, a bit of black, which using a light tones colour will make it stand out even more.